The thing is, though, is that he used to do that to his co-commentators as well. We'd be in a game trying to do something, and, well, this actually ended up being kind of a problem at one point. If you guys were around, we were tasked with casting a show match, me and him, like a free-for-all or something, and he was kind of a dick, actually. He was so frustrated with this BS time filler, and, you know, at that point, a lot of the community was actually legitimately tired of these free-for-all time fillers for the finals. He didn't want to cast it, but he was told he had to, I guess. I don't remember. And I tried to actually make it a cast, and he just was a butt. And the only interesting thing that happened was that we played Caster Chicken. It was the only thing that he was willing to do to have some fun. And then I got in trouble because I tried to make it fun. No, me and Control almost never butted head, actually. It was just, that was a pretty egregious moment in Control's. I refused to be fake. Caster Chicken, it's when neither caster speaks. And whoever speaks first loses. And then, he got yelled at for the whole thing. Like, his attitude towards it. But I also got yelled at for playing Caster Chicken, which I thought was very unfair. It was like my first time doing it. I didn't know that they had like a ground rule at that broadcast not to do it. And it was the only thing that was remotely interesting about the whole part, the whole hour long, whatever we did. Anyways. So, Maru versus Serral. Let's see how worse Maru is. The lessons, kind of, yeah. It just was, this was after almost every single finals had a show match before it. Like, I remember, it was kind of boring. No one was really having fun. It was before, like, the Beast of the Hill was made as well, so it was like an old, unfair free-for-all map. I think they were deemed very unnecessary by that point, but people kept doing them. Like, it was just, I also didn't want to do it. Like, I wasn't excited to do it, but I would argue that in that moment I was way more professional than In Control was. That doesn't help at all, Katil, because the reason that there's a break before the grand finals is to give the second semifinalist a break. So increasing the length of the matches doesn't help. Good question, Sermgot. We will discuss some of that. So I think Pig made some very accurate, succinct comments on all of the series. You could just listen to him again. But it is a problem, right? So we started off by saying this could be a problem. The reason that this ends up being a bit of a failure is that Serral's micro is really good. So this is supposed to be a problem, right? Like, you don't have speed on the way, and they're 2-rax Reapering you, and they could go up to 4 Reapers, which is what Maru ends up doing. But what's interesting about this setup is that, again, by doing this, one thing that you actually are weirdly okay with is, like, your 3rd hatch and Reapers. Like, the fact that you get it so fast actually takes away the power of the Reaper versus the 3rd hatch specifically. Like a Command Center First takes the wind out of the early pool sales. The 6 links show up to a command center first. It's already done. It doesn't do anything. So that's like one positive of having this situation is that the Reapers, even if they had immediately gone to this hatchery, it's harder to kill because it has more health. And if they don't go immediately to the hatchery, then they're probably not going to kill it no matter what. And so Maru obviously did not go immediately to the hatchery, which also is in a really, the map also makes us a bit weirder. Usually the hatchery, I would say, is, you're more keen on targeting it. Like, well, yeah, like perhaps this map, like Alcyone, right? So like this third hatch is building, your Reapers get rallied to the natural, actually. Natural to natural most of the time, right? But it's a dip over to the third to check it out, and then you can decide. And then if you decide your hatchery now is going to go down, you can jump into the main. And this map, you know, you could go to the third hatch, but then you don't jump into the main very easily. In fact, you don't jump into the main at all. You run up the ramp like a normal non-Reaper unit. So this is like one of those weird situations, I think, where, like, yeah, hypothetically, the lack of something to catch the Reapers is a problem. But the setup actually isn't so bad. Like, the Reapers can't abuse multiple bases away from creep spread. Yeah. You know, because then sometimes there's the main natural creep spread that's not put down this early on. So the queen... number 1 from the main base, she's like, okay, let me hold on here. Since I have this VOD up, right? But yeah, on this map, Alcyone, it's like the queen from the main base eventually goes down to the natural. She like hikes up her pants. She's like, okay, hold on. And then there's like not creep spread leading the main from to the natural. So that opens up more of an opportunity for the second queen to die, actually, if that was a target from the Terran player. Again, you can beat bop from main base to third to main, and then if the queens are still off of creep, go back to the natural and like 99 a boo boo. You don't get so much of that on this map, actually. You know, you get into the main, and then the main's also the natural, but that you're like, oh, the drones are closer for me to hit, but then the creep's also actually connected. The queens are much more likely to actually be able to group up. And the third base is not a target to worry about. So, I still am really interested about the pool placement, though. As Moog's saying, like, it does give the option to wall. And I guess that could have been a problem in the future. If all 4 Reapers had stayed alive... And again, there's no speed coming. So, you know, there's a long time which those 4 Reapers can dance around. And they can still technically try and kill the queens. Even if they're combined together, if your micro is good enough and you're stubborn enough. And then you block this off, put the queens on the high ground. I mean, what you can't argue is that this is just a random pool placement. You can't argue that. That's for sure. Serral does not put that there for no good reason. But he doesn't end up needing to worry about it because he catches the Reapers anyway. There's actually a point in which we wonder, I don't know, for a brief second, I was like, oh no, is Serral off? Because he loses a drone here. He loses 2 drones. Oh my god. And you're like, oh no, is Serral off? Like, he barely doesn't cancel this 4 either. He's very close to not canceling it. It's like, okay, good. You know, this could be actually like a contest. Maru could do something. It's awesome. Maru's definitely going to do something. He's definitely going to... Oh, wait, no. Oh, no. Is the only small glimpse of hope for Maru was literally at minute 2.5 when it looked like Serral wasn't going to micro as well. And then he did micro like a baller and killed Maru's Reapers, and then there was no hope remaining for the entirety of the series. That's kind of insane. And I'll highlight that micro again. So it was pretty sick. You can check out his camera. We're going to be a little zoomed in, but... Okay, so, you know, he sees the spore, and he's like, oh, whoops, okay. Sees the weak drones as well, starts to pull them away. And then it looks like he sees the opportunity. See, what would be really fascinating is to see his mouse cursor. And whether or not he actually, like, went to go box select all the drones and then went, no, I need this one specifically. Or if he was going to click on this drone and then went, no, never mind, I'm going to click on this one. Any other drone would not have reached there in time. I think that's like a fact, actually. This one would have gone this way and then probably would have died or been body blocked. If it had gone that way, that was too long. I think with 15 number of drones out at 3:30 versus standard game. Oh, you mean his economic victory in the beginning now? But yeah, this is... It should never happen. It should never happen to this tier of Terran player. It's like, oh, I'm gonna get him. I'm gonna get him. Oh shit, I didn't get him. Miscontrols. Has all 3 Reapers in the same control group, by the looks of things. Not that his Reapers would have survived this way anyway. I think the Queens would have killed him. Does he need to get the last few drone kills he was hoping for? Like, that's a moment where you'd really want the actual first-person view. Mouse cursor and everything. It was 1 more shot from 3 Reapers. 1 more shot from 2 Reapers, I think. It's pretty close. And then that just completely takes the wind of all his sails. Which is really bad, as Analysis is bringing up, like, you already were doing something greedier than your opponent, so the Reapers are really supposed to have more of a heyday. They're supposed to hopefully either kill more drones than 3, which is the end result, or kill that many drones plus, I don't know, like take on a queen, stop the creep spread from going down to the 3rd, temporarily hold the transfer of drones because the queens need to walk their slow butts down. I guess that's all I can think of that you could do with Reapers in this situation. But the point is, it's supposed to be more. And it just is so much less concerning when there's 2 Reapers instead of 4. Or at least for some slow lings. Yeah, there you go, exactly. Which, you know, Serral just never even made. He made 2 lings, sent them across the map, and then was like, I'm Gucci. I don't need lings. Okay, so not like this is, you know, I don't think it's game ending for the Terran. I'm not that dramatic, but this could very well have been the make or break difference of Maru's mentality. You know, he would have to talk about it. I would not know, but if Maru goes into this best of 7 hyped up from all his friends. And they're like, no, you gotta do this and do that and like do that thing that Oliveira did, but do it a little bit better and do this instead. And you got a really solid plan. You can definitely take on Serral, man. We believe in you. We can happen. And he's like, yeah, no, I can do it. Yeah, okay, all right. Yeah, no, this will be much better than Katowice. It's gonna be great. And then he gets fucking body blocked by an evolution chamber and his Reapers die. Then you're like, oh my god, no, I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't beat him. You know, in this Marauder, which we kind of glossed over, I have no idea. Pig just admitted it. He was like, I think that's a misclick. I don't know why I made a Marauder. Why would he make a Marauder here? Trying to think if there's some type of Marauder Hellion opener you could do off of this, but I don't think so. Looks for nuke just by dragging across the minimap. Yes. The Marauder mind trick. Well, Artos is finally admit no. It's a very ineffective fake though, because I'm trying to think if I've ever seen a 3cc a 2-rax into 3cc into Hellbat Marauder attack. And I'm pretty sure I've never seen that. I could be wrong. 1-rax, 3rd CC, Marauder Hellbat? Yeah, sure, of course. Although, you know, again, Hellbat attacks are kind of rare. But this is clearly in Vision of the Lynx. And there's never Marauder Slow being researched either. The Lings can see that, and you would get Marauder Slow if you were doing the Marauder attack. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I am missing something, but all the Zerg players out there, if you were to see this setup, wouldn't you just be like, what? Why is there a Marauder? I clearly don't have roaches. You know I went gasless. You're not going to do some type of weird attack. I mean, you don't even have Hellions yet. No, I actually can't explain this one, even as a mind game. Unless the mind game is literally just to make them confused. And then I guess that works. Anyways, moving on. And, you know, it's a gas and minerals that you usually would not be spending right now. You know what? We're going to see if that Marauder helps in the drop. We're gonna pay attention to you, little Mr. Marauder. So Serra's in a wonderful position. He's up 15 drones at this point. It was a nice opening for him, no doubt about that. I feel like it took me a while to actually get going in a cast in this series. I kept talking over myself. Anyways, but that was a wonderful start for Serral. But again, mentality, I would say, is terrible for Maru, but... I'm really hyper-focusing on Maru's macro. So, you know, the natural being what it is does change up the situation a little bit. Overlord gets the scout on the barracks more than anything else. He knew it was 3rd CC. And he sees one more barracks. I don't think there's anything other than what it is, which is that the starport's done, engineering bays are done, and the extra barracks are coming down. When he floated the factory over, was he going to swap? Well, it kind of looked like that was maybe the case, especially with the Marauder opening. It's like, was he going to swap and build Hellions? I mean, the more that you look at it... Shit. He would have seen that factory lifted, I'm pretty... He saw the factory lifted, yeah. I'm wondering if this could have been an attempt to fake him into thinking this could be going into mech, actually. God damn it. Well, obviously Stim is on the way, but it could be faked. It's just, you know, the only thing is that this was faking it would be going to Hellions, not immediately into a 2-1-1. That still doesn't explain the Marauder to me, but if we ignore the Marauder, then yeah, I think he was trying to make Serral think he was going to make Hellions. I still don't really think that there's a Marauder Hellbat attack with a 3rd CC there after a 2-rax. But there very well could be. I just don't know it. Isn't a chance he forgot the concussive? I don't know, man. Like, let's say that he does actually do a Marauder Hellbat attack after that 3rd CC. Because again, this is in the know. Serral knows the 3rd CC. So we see a lot of 2-base Marauder Hellbat, but not too many 3CC ones, and then not for me after a 2-rax opener. But let's think it through. Marauder pops. Marauder slow is very fast and cheap upgrade, so it's like finishing or is done. Second Marauder would be on the way instead. This would be producing Hellions. Only the first 2 Hellions. And with the Marauder Hellbat attack, I'm pretty sure you'd still want at least 6 Hellions. I don't know the time difference of building Marines versus Hellions, but they've got to be around the same time. So when is he hitting? 5.5? Something around that. But yeah, you'd want a medevac, which is like also what I'm looking at. Sort of the timing of the starport. Would it have been any faster if he had actually gotten to Hellions? So yeah, he like this is literally when he's like, okay, move the Ling away, and then like they'll never see that I didn't actually put the factory on the Hellion on the reactor. So Hellions would have been building. Starport could have come down slightly earlier, I guess. So he very clearly is trying to hide something. I think we can all agree on that at this point. He is clearly trying to make some mind game happen. He's holding on to his stim and his starport resources. He could have started either one much faster. Even if he had committed to Marauder slow, it's only 50-50. He was building Hellions, and he built the starport as soon as he had 100 gas as well. As soon as his factory is done. Could have put the starport now. And if he was... Well, if he was producing Hellions. No, actually. But he could build a starport around this time if he didn't get stim and he had Marines producing, or Hellions producing. Starport would have finished. Maybe that actually is what he was going for. No way, Moog, because he knew that there was a gasless opener. Like, you don't get a Marauder first against a gasless opener. Maybe eventually you get a Marauder because you don't know what they're doing after that, but there's no way you get it first. Yeah, he does do that. I noticed that too. He has to be put up both down at the same time after that. I think maybe it was, yeah, like I said, I haven't really seen it, but it doesn't mean they can't exist. But if his plan was to go 3 Marauders, Marauder slow, Hellions, starport could have been done 30, 40 seconds faster or something. And then he would have hit definitely around before 5:30 actually, with the medevac. Because he also didn't have to necessarily get a reactor on it. He just got 1 medevac. So yeah, I'm pretty sure like this could have been... Yeah, I guess a Marauder Hellbat attack could have hit still before 5:30. Let's say it hit around this time and Serral had no idea. You know, Serral... Unless he figures he can actually kill you. He doesn't get that many roaches. Only 5 roaches as the Marauder Hellbat comes in now to clear up creep. Have been 3 Marauders, Medevac, and 6 Hellions. I am definitely leaning more towards it now. He's definitely trying to change things up and fake him out a little bit. And, you know, he did end up changing his build a little bit because of it. So another thing that just can't feel very good, right? Because even though maybe this is a very seamless transition, you're like, oh, that didn't work, let me move on. Still messes you up. And I'd say mentally it messes you up a lot too. You're like, God damn it, who has 2 Lings nibbling at a supply depot to see a Marauder being built? Fuck off. Yeah, I actually think, really looking at it, I think we could have called this in a similar fashion to how we called, it was like game 3 or something. When Maru tried to do 3 different things and every time he got scouted. This was one change into a, you know, normal looking build, but still. And with 4 Reaper and his Link still got a scout. Exactly! Like, actually, when you put it like that, it's fucking absurd, right? And then this is when the, this is just, like, you already feel like it, you know, you definitely felt like it wasn't a very good game for Maru. That's for sure. We were talking about, like, the map and how difficult it can be for Zerg players to hold on to the space, which is all, I think, very true, but just hardly seemed worth mentioning. I can check out the income graph and see how much that he's winning by. This is a 2-rax opener, so we can't directly compare it to the build of Oliveira. But that would be... That would be an easy... It's an easy thing to point at and be like, well, yeah, he doesn't have the best macro possible, and Oliveira says you need the literal best macro possible. Because the 2-rax is, you know, it can be powerful because first there's the Reapers, then there's the question mark follow-up, then there's the constant aggression, because you have the Marines and you have the Medevacs out on the map. But that doesn't ever happen in this game, so clearly the 2-rax just hits you, hurts you economically. I mean, Serral plays a more perfecter finals here. But it, like, you know, the more you look at it, the more you just believe Oliveira that it's an old style of macro that doesn't really work out very well against what Serral's currently doing. I mean, Maru has almost 0 pressure in this game, but it's not like it's for the sake of something bigger and better later down the road. Because, you know, Oliveira's 4th CC build also doesn't have any pressure, really. And 8 Hellions, 2 Banshees, but it hits like a hammer when it actually goes out and moves out. I mean, Maru is just like, well, you know, this game can just go on, right? Like, it's hard to break a turtle, Terran. That's what everyone says. Which I don't think is untrue, but this, we know how this ends. Serral just easy peasy kills him. Just completely untouched. Actually, you know, Serral, I believe Pig was noting, you know, that Serral actually did not explode in economy. He did not go to his 90 drones on this map. In this scenario, he wanted to get Maru to move out, and then he would totally envelop him. But then Maru doesn't move out, which sounds like the right thing. Because I don't think Pig is wrong. You know, I think at this exact moment he's describing how if Maru moved out, then Serral would be ready to pounce on him. Which I don't think is wrong. So then surely the correct decision is to just stay at home. And yet somehow that's not correct enough. And then Serral makes this decision. So he has very limited information as to Maru's setup, actually. And apparently he doesn't give a shit. Yeah, Maru microed the Vikings was like the start of a... I feel like this is when people really started to doubt Maru, actually. Is when these Vikings missed the Vipers. So this is Serral's first sight on this base. He had no idea if it was already a planetary or not. And only now is he like, oh, it's not a planetary, great. 3 tanks in a choke. Planetary TBD. Because I don't give a fuck. Takes 2 of them out of the equation. Blinding Cloud the 3rd one. And a decent amount of the units too, which have to run away from the banelings anyway. And takes a second to macro. Good lord. Because, you know, for him, this is actually, like, if this did not win the game, that's okay. It just does, it ends up winning the game. And it looks so easy. And it really shouldn't be that easy. But as cool as it is to watch Serral just, you know, go for it. You can watch the overall the overall setup for Maru actually still remains to be perfect. It wasn't perfect yet. Not just because he doesn't have ghosts, but he had no idea the army was coming in that direction. Oh my god. He actually had 0 idea. Wow. Okay. That's a very off Maru. He had units literally bypass the army, and he had it in his minimap vision because of that. And he still did not pay attention until the very, very last second. That's not the best that Maru can play. And, you know, if he just figured no way a sane Zerg would ever be able to choose to kill me here, I wouldn't blame him. This seems like a very good Terran setup. I was playing for the late game, but instead he died. Serral was actually a savage. He's a savage in the interviews. So anyway, so like there's already a couple problems, right? The Vikings obviously should have been on top of the Vipers. They don't kill them that quickly, in my Terran opinion. So they probably still would have gotten the abducts off, but, you know, really, you're looking to kill the Viper. You're looking to at least punish it. Kill the Viper, even if your tanks go down. Doesn't happen. And then, really what kills Maru is that he had no idea this was on the way. Because honestly, if he knew this army was coming, his bio could have been behind the tank as it gets abducted. Doesn't save the tank. It just means that his army is taking advantage of this choke. And instead, he has most of his army over here. And almost all of his tanks over the left side as well. He didn't know where the army was coming in from. And then I would still at this point be like, well, you know, Zerg players, you go through chokes. I don't know about that one. It was like, okay, doesn't matter. Nothing was killing the banelings through the choke, so... And you know, actually, I want to give a special shout out to those blinding clouds. Actually, I think they're one of the major reasons why that choke didn't end up being as powerful as it could have been. So yeah, his army's out of position. Some tanks. Blinding cloud on this tank. Blinding cloud on the choke. Is actually really, really good. This army was about to stand its ground around the tank, so the tank's kind of a force field, and then this is the choke the banelings have to filter through. If the army can stand its ground, the banelings they're going single file. They all die even without being target fired. But the army has to move out of the blinding cloud, so then it goes to not taking advantage of that choke. Tank obviously dies, no longer as cruel of a choke. Command center's canceled. Even less of a choke. And then he's still running away too, giving more room for the lings to get surrounded. Then he's spreading because that's the only option left over, which again the banelings maybe don't connect, but then the lings actually get on. And well, the rest of the army as well. I think if Maru literally had his army here and his tanks, 2 of them do get abducted, but then he actually has these 3 tanks firing as well on the army. Like, I think it's good enough to defend. Serral's still winning. But I don't know if this actually is game over at that second. It doesn't say that it's game over. From soup to nuts, man. The way that Serral's macroing to the way that the engagement was set up, it just screams this game isn't supposed to end yet. The Terran player is turtling and they have a choke. Like, fuck off. And then Serral's like, well, I'll just see what's up here. Oh my god, tanks. Oh wow, geez, thanks, man. Fucking insane. No, I think he dies no matter what. I think in the best case scenario for the engagement that I'm describing, Planetary's also finished, I guess. I think Maru still falls down 50 supply. And obviously struggles much more to recover from that than Serral does. I think he still loses. Just that was not supposed to be the end of the game. I think for either player. I was like, wait, what? And Serral's like, oh, that was easy. Serral did win again, and he had 0 hard times in the finals. The only difficulty he had was in the semifinal. Okay. So game 2 on Ghost River, this was played by Oliveira and Serral, but I believe different build orders. So on this map, Serral went normal hatch gas pool, 3rd hatch. Oliveira went 1 racks expand, factory, then 2nd barracks. Also opposite placements. Just so far what they're both doing. Or, well, no, Serral went hatch pool. Okay, so that's a difference already. Does not go for the gas in this game. Maru is 1x expanding into factory. Then the command center, obviously. But then. Okay, so he's gonna get a starport. Okay. So different build orders between the two. Oliveira went for much faster marine production. I was going to go out on his Roachborn. He saw it was a factory. He has yet to see that it's a starport, but the Overlord's going to get in and see that. So he knows it's Banshee Hellion. He's not going to go for an offensive Roach attack. Does almost get surprised, but the Roach timing was so perfect. Like, that's just unlucky for Maru. And you know, if the hatchery was on this side, then the larva's on this side, right? And then the Hellions would have gotten a better shot on the right side. It's just, they popped exactly where the Hellions went. Still 7 drones, something better than, I think any of the other games that Maru gets to play against them. Philip Banshee with Cloak. Double Engineering Bay. At the 4th and 5th barracks, we'll compare to Oliveira again. There they are. Okay, so 4th and 5th barracks are on the way. Here's game number 1 between Oliveira and Serral. He, again, went 2nd barracks, then starport, so he has a faster, like, 2-on-1 addition. Oh, right, he did an armory. That's right, he did an armory. When When I analyzed this, I just like, it's like, he does an armory thing. It's really awesome, this armory thing that he does. And he literally was doing it. Okay, so this is just two different build orders to really compare to each other, I would say. But there is a almost exact build order that both Maru and Oliveira did, like almost exactly similar. And we will see what happens then. So let's even check, I guess, the numbers if we can at 6 minutes. Again, Maru already feels like he's so far behind. At 550, it already feels like Maru is too far behind. Sorry, I got rid of display capture. You guys totally didn't see what I saw. My bad. So again, different build orders. It's not a direct comparison. And yet... Go away. I mean, look at what's happening at 552-ish. No, Oliveira's third wasn't delayed. It was factory, one racks expand, factory, third CC, second barracks. So his third wasn't delayed. His additional barracks and his engineering bays were a little delayed because he went for an armory build this game. So that would make sense. Maru has more workers with a slightly greedy I don't remember if any SCVs died in Oliveira versus Serral. Gosh darn it. And obviously the pressure's being applied to Serral. Whereas... So, like, Serral's economy is similar between these games. Different build order, different composition from both. But Oliveira has an almost identical economy, but his army supply is more threatening. And he actually does this little, like, trip up where he sends the Hellions with the natural instead of into the front lines. And then from here on out, it's impossible to compare. But it feels like Maru had a plan to get some damage done to his opponent, and it actually was threatening. This was scary for Serral. And so it was a good use of Oliveira's plan to go into more aggression. Because I would say it worked. This game ends up being really long and really close. Compared to Maru's very humdrum, very normal Hellion Banshee play, which puts him in a very similar economic area, but with zero pressure applied to Serral, realistically. The Hellions didn't count, the Banshees don't count. It's nothing, like, I don't think I'm really noting anything here. It's just as, like, when Oliveira did something versus Serral, whether it was to try to attack him or to keep up with his greed, he did it. Like, the aggression worked or the greed worked. So he was almost always at a level playing field, because when the aggression worked, Serral had to defend, which takes away his economy. And when they both were macroing, they both were macroing. But when Maru does any of these things, when he tries to be aggressive, it fails. When he tries to play like a normal macro game to match Serral, it already feels like it's impossible. Just looking at this and you're like, well, this just doesn't... Like I was trying to say at the beginning of today, is what it sounds like with Oliveira calling Maru's builds old and like invalid at this point. What that means is that the shift of greed is it's been pushed even more than StarCraft 2 has already pushed it. Compare this to 2010 when no one expanded. So we have another push forward into the macro game where now the 4th CC is default at an absurdly fast time. So now the 3cc turns into a middle of the road build. which doesn't do favorably against someone who apparently doesn't feel like Serral is being insanely greedy because he doesn't die. But it kind of feels like that. Like he just suddenly is much better with the macro. You know, if you were to pause this game and be like, "What's the build?" You'd be like, "Oh, I guess Maru tried to like 2-base 1/1/1, and his third was delayed, and you know, Serral probably went gasless, which he did, into only macro." And that is at its core what I guess happened, but it's just so different. It's just so... It already looks so bad for Maru. It's incredible. Might be a problem that Cloaked Banshees don't count. I don't think so, because Oliveira also gets Cloaked Banshees. Not in the game that we just saw, but he also does... His 3cc build also will incorporate Hellion Banshee into the very fast 4th cc. So that's why I'm like, well, Oliveira, you know, when he aggresses, it's a real aggressive opener. It's that Hellbent opener where he pushed out with the army. And then otherwise, if they both are doing Hellion Banshee, which you would call harassing units, not a push, Oliveira is doing it with this really fast 4th cc or a very powerful 8-rax, and Maru is either doing it with a too slow 4th cc or a not powerful 8-rax. Usually when it gets surprised, yep. Or baited to make too many units, yes. Or heavy and constant pressure, which is very difficult to achieve. Yeah, I mean, I think that's correct. People have been trying to trip up Serral since he became good, and it's very difficult to do. What I think actually, Roddy once had a very good saying for this, where it's like, the way to get Serral messed up is to... How did he put it? Damn it. It's like, is it to lull him into a false sense of security? Ah, damn it. I have to ask Roddy to describe Serral again. God damn it. I don't remember what it is, but there's like one specific way that Serral gets tripped up, and it's because... the build order allows you to present a 3cc, but you didn't build any SCVs. Which is actually... It is a build, but we didn't see that in any of the final day. The fake 3rd cc. That's true. Oliveira does skip the cloak. That is a good point. That's something that Maru did afford. But, you know, you could easily argue that cloak has never helped anyone versus Serral. The Banshees, even if they don't do offensive damage, are still very useful defensively. So cloak or no cloak, they're as good as they ever will be defensively. On the offense, cloak is supposed to make them a little bit scarier, but then Serral always has the defense, so... Is it better... Ollie executed it better, or that Serral got better at defending because he played Oliveira? Well, that's what we're going to find out, because we are going to directly compare the 8-raxes. This is different builds... different goals as well. It's just kind of absurd that Serral already feels like he's too far ahead when Maru hasn't done anything abnormal. This is a normal TVZ. This is the game though where so this is the game where Serral just steamrolls him with ultras. Serral does start to cut... Well, he cuts one very important thing. Well, I guess he also cuts speed for a very long time, but he gets speed, but then he also doesn't go for a Baneling Nest anytime soon. Not adding on the Baneling Nest, which is usually his, like, he does that with the Infestation Pit, I think, and most of the other games at the same time. Skips the Baneling Nest this time around. Get some Infestors, hopefully buy time if necessary. Not even really necessary. Overseer just scouted around for... It probably was going to check the 3rd again. Or the main, I'm not sure, but I got killed. But again, most likely you're looking for a 4th at this point in time. Or trying to see if it's an 8-rax. The only thing that Serral's seen so far is that a 5th gas was in fact taken, which does already mean that at least it's not Oliveira's 8-rax, which apparently doesn't include the 5th or 6th gases. Oh, the Banshees actually did something. But then one died, and this one dies too. Which I don't think is worth it. Even though 9 drones is actually... 9 drones is good. 16 drones killed in total sounds good. And 16 drones by 8 minutes actually sounds quite good. The caveat is that the Zerg player was at 90 drones anyway. So these are things that sound good if it's not Serral's build. Yeah, because now it feels like nothing. Exactly. And now I'd much rather have those Banshees around scouting run-bys and guarding my reinforcements. So that 4th CC comes down at, what was that, 7? And you would hear in my commentary with Pig, we were not suggesting Maru to go for the Oliveira 4th base timing. We were at bare minimum asking if he would go for the 6.5 4th command center, which is, I think, a far more typical greedy Terran style. That's what like Clem does 80% of the time. He goes for that 6.5 minute 4th, and then his real action gets started more so when that's set up as well. So obviously across all of StarCraft 2, initially it was like once your first base was set up and ready, you're ready to tango. Once your second base is ready, you're ready to tango. Now it's mostly if your third base is ready, you're ready to tango. But now we're kind of pushing it even farther maybe, where now it's like if you don't have a 4-base foundation set up, you need to check yourself. You need to do something different next time. It's kind of crazy. But anyway, so this was already kind of late. Like even by like baseline standards, this was already not a very quick 4th CC. It certainly wasn't the greediest that Maru could have been. And there's no... Unfortunately, there's no benefit to this. You know, like, well, he delays his 4th CC so that he has, this much army. Like, that's the trade-off. It's, okay, what does the trade-off do? Apparently nothing versus Serral. Which is what Oliveira argues in his assessment of the games. He's like, yeah, you know what, this is a good game as an example, even though it was different builds. But just as an example, like he had the 4th and 5th barracks done. There they are. I was like, oh, did he? Yeah, he's the 4th and 5th barracks down before he adds on the, or building, before he adds on the 4th. Which gives him how many extra Marines? Don't even have to give me a number, because apparently it's not enough Marines to make a difference. Yeah, this was also a really bad upgrade game. Terrible upgrade game. Honestly, yet another sign looking back on things that things were already unraveling. I mean, really, you can look at this whole series and be like, oh, the Reapers getting trapped was the start of the unraveling. The utter domination of that last battle in the first game. That's Maru unraveling. And then Maru missing his armory for so damn long. That's him continuing to unravel. And Serral's getting ultras at, casual 9 minutes. It's cool. It's cool. It's cool. And he feels perfectly safe. At this point in time, not on Ghost River, because this is a different build from Oliveira. Let's go into, this one, Oceanborn. Oceanborn was 111, 3cc 111, Hellion Banshee with Cloak. This is the only time that he went Cloak in the series. Serral's doing a similar, if not... Is this actually exactly the same? No. Okay, so he goes melee here and missile in this game. Okay. Different things happen as far as the damage accumulated and whatnot. But to Oliveira's point, He is getting his fourth base on location at 7 minutes off of a 111 3cc 111 8 Hellion 2 Banshee with cloak build because he gets that before his fourth and fifth barracks. But his is on location at this moment. Well, Maru's is still finishing. This is 7 minutes versus the 8.5 we have on screen. And then if we skip forward, Oliveira still has a push. Kind of. I mean, it's more than what Maru's doing. Not that it's super important. All of these things, like I think both games, the Terrans were like, okay, I can't really push into the guy. Like they're just harassing. But then you also have at 8.5 minutes. Obviously, upgrades are an issue for Maru, so on the upgrades. Serral is at 94 drones in that game. Jesus. Oliveira has 82 army supply, and Maru has 77 army supply. How does that happen? Well, maybe Oliveira's Hellions didn't get sacrificed in the Oceanborn game. They tried, and then they had to leave. So, okay, that makes up for some of the army supply difference. But then at the end of the day, you telling me that Oliveira can fit in a 4th CC and still have an, I guess, identical army supply to his opponent? To his teammate? To his race mate? There we go. His race mate? Well, then you probably want to add that 4th CC, right? And he's already working on a 5th. And a Ghost Academy. Is this before his extra barracks or after? Oh my god, he's also already on 8 barracks. Oh my god, I think he is. Wow. Okay. So he's also already on 8 barracks, and Maru's still building up to 8. Wow. Hard to disagree with Oliveira's assessment of how things went down. Could he realistically defend that if Serral just went full on attack right now, right here? Yeah. He'd be okay here, but he doesn't. It's okay. It's not okay in the future. Yeah, that's the thing, is that Maru is a bit behind on everything already. Oliveira, there is no point in which you looked at the game of Oliveira versus Serral, any of these games, where you were like, well, Oliveira just fell behind at some point. Hard to say exactly when. Whereas Maru, it's like he's already behind and literally nothing happened. What? How? And it's that change up on the barracks, which I believe would be instrumental to a 1-1 roach attack defense. But if it's not that, then the gap of Marines doesn't matter. Oh, okay, sorry. You're asking, could Oliveira have defended at this moment? Being as greedy as he was? Is he ever too greedy and then just dies? Is that what you're asking? Okay. The thing is, no. Like, a 20 supply advantage into the Zerg's favor is, you know, not ideal for a Terran, but when you're playing defensively, it doesn't usually kill you. 10 army supply difference even. It's not even that big. There's actually no point in which it looks like he's very vulnerable. Again, the only thing I can think of is if it was a 1-1 roach all-in. When does that hit? If it's a perfect build, when does the 1-1 roach all-in hit? And I guess when does 1-1 hit, I guess, is the question. Sometimes they wait for a max out, sometimes they don't. And then maybe there's like 10, 15 Marines missing. I'm not sure. But, you know, Serral's not really one who goes for that too often anyway. And, yeah, the Hellions and Banshees are still alive. Hellions not as useful. Banshee's very useful. It's not exactly accurate to say that Zerg can just swap on a whim. Certainly later on in the game. But in the first 8 minutes, I guess, when it comes to Serral, 8.5 minutes is when apparently he makes enough drones to be satisfied. You generally aren't expecting the Zerg player to have that type of freedom. You know, usually at any point in the 8.5 minutes of a StarCraft game, any point you're making the Zerg player not make drones is bad for the Zerg. But, I mean, what you're saying is basically right at this point, which is like they don't need to make any more workers. They can just make army. But it's not a decision at that point. It's just Serral being super optimized. And I'm sure to Maru, it just doesn't feel like this should be so easy. He sees that it's a hive. He sees 4 bases. Perfectly reasonable. He knows the rocks are broken. He doesn't actually know about the ultras. Just knows about the hive. I think you're right. Crow size, bro. So I think this is the game where some people might have misconstrued this. He does eventually see that they actually are broken. Yeah, his supply depot could actually see them being broken. I remember that in the cast. So he knows. But yeah, I think some people thought that this was Maru still being too greedy, which I don't think is actually wrong, kind of. But it's a matter of doing it fast enough that it can impact you positively. And this is just slow. This is... You're not wrong that he's macroing and trying to get to the late game, but he's doing it too slow. And so I still wouldn't... It's a matter of phrasing, but I wouldn't say that him being greedy right now kills him by, getting his 5th immediately and his... He's actually getting 2 extra orbitals. Immediately, right? So he puts 800 minerals into that before fully maxing out. Maybe before his Ghost Academy as well. Before his Ghost Academy as well. He gets the extra... He gets the 5th anyway. Ghost Academy comes on first. Could he have gotten Ghost out? Yes. Ghost Academy could have been put down at any point now. But you don't want to go into Ghosts too quickly sometimes if they're actually like trying to max out and kill you with Road Ravager. It doesn't feel like this was his late game was his plan. Well, it doesn't feel that way when he gets absolutely clobbered, but I did not see any indication in this game that he was trying to do something else other than 3CC111. Like the first game, I think we figured out that he was trying to do something different and got scouted, so that sucks. But this second game... The second game, he didn't have any other ideas that got ruined. Maybe he was planning on a eight-rax and changed his mind, maybe? I don't think so, though. This is actually a very typical TVZ thing. Like, there's nothing, an outlier here. The fact that it's weird is just because Oliveira is doing what he does. It's like, without Oliveira to compare to, if Dark played Serral in the semifinals and we got to see this, we'd be like, wow, the fuck are you supposed to do against this kid? But then Oliveira's like, well, here's this new thing. You should give it a go. And we're like, oh, yeah. But this is the same exact setup that you would see Maru play against any top tier Zerg going back to 2016, maybe like literally Legacy of the Void. This has been around for a while. 3cc 111 into like a 7-minute fourth. I'm gonna say existed in 2018 at least. Yeah, yeah. And this would set him up into plenty of late games. It would set him up into plenty of the most epic late games we can think of. I'm pretty sure you could go back to Maru vs. Serral in TSL and see Maru doing the exact same thing and Serral doing stuff that's different, optimizing his play. Maru never comments. He might actually talk to like Crank or someone on a show, and eventually that'll get translated. But no, he doesn't. He's not as like it sounds like Oliveira just literally jumps right on with the with SC Boy and starts talking as soon as he gets back home. So this is the game ending push. So it just this is the epitome of just like Maru does nothing in particular bad and then he just gets clobbered. So, obviously, once again, Maru doesn't know exactly where the army's coming from. Since Jara sees it, that's a little bit advance notice, but it's not... The army's not there. So that's not ideal. The army had been right here from the get-go. I'm pretty sure this isn't done. Pretty sure. Again, no banelings. This is where you gotta highlight that 1-1 though versus 1-2. The carapace being done already when Maru's upgrades were so fucking late. Just means these Marines are extra poor. By the way, that Marauder in the first game never did anything. So I was gonna pay attention, I forgot, but he didn't do anything. So just the fact that the army is already up above the minerals is already bad news. And I think if the Marines were there from the get-go, there's got to be more hesitation. Even though the Marines are shooting duds right now, there's got to be more hesitation from Serral if the Marines were there. But he sees a tank basically by itself, and is like, yeah, sure, take it. Then he probably also is like, I'm on the ramp. Oh my god, you're at 1-1. You can get wrecked. The fact that there are 16 Marines on this side of the map is not really super important. Because Marines just don't do anything at this point. And yet again, you know, a lot of tanks not involved in the fight. Because he doesn't know that the army is about to attack him, or from what direction, until he sees it with the sensor tower. That's not enough notice to unsiege and resiege your tanks. But, you know, I'm definitely sure that if all 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I think 6, if all 6 tanks were protecting this choke, no. You do not go up that. I don't care how good Serral is. But, you know, basically one tank was, so... It's still kind of insane that Serral just reads it immediately and knows he's gonna win. This is the 10-minute ultra plating game. Yep. Which is absolutely fast. It's absolutely fast, for sure. If we compare it to where he's at with his different build order, this is a Baneling upgrade, Banelings included build order. And this is more just like getting those Vipers on time. But, you know, he's not even bothering with Ultra's Cavern in this game. Let's try and find an Oliveira game where he does. Biter! I think you have 1,000 bits! Woohoo! You so jolly. I like that I was away with kids for 4 years and come back and watch your commentary. Well, thanks for coming back. Serral's just a material girl. He just needs to win a lot of money to pay for his shopping addiction. No, it's all good, Biter. Right, so I was trying to look for Serral doing the no Baneling ultra max out. No, Banelings. 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 No banelings? No banelings? No baneling? This is it. Okay. Oh, well, okay. Yeah, this is not comparable because this is an 8-rax, so that's not fair. That's not fair. Yeah, Oliveira Serral did not play a straight macro game where Serral also coincidentally went into the 10-minute ultras. Oh, wait. This one is not, it's not a good example. Yeah. Yeah, okay. So you can't, we don't find a direct, there's no comparison between the series. The best we can get is Oliveira doing his macro versus Serral doing a not ultra timing. And it's 10.5 minutes. 10:16. There you go. Perfect. 8-rax. No, not an 8-rax the same. Sorry. This was almost the exact same build as Maru, except the 4cc timing. Serral still gets, you know, a great foundation, but not the ultra timing. Sorry, I've got to go back to before Maru was dead. So 950. Ah! Keep pressing the space bar to unpause it. It doesn't work. That's a lot more shit. That's a more appropriate 2-2 timing. I can tell you that much. He still has the extra command centers on the way. The exact same time. But when his planetary is done and his base is saturated. Yeah, it seems unoptimal. I'm sure someone smarter than I am is going to determine why what Oliveira does is not the new meta, but all the comparison points so far just says that it's a better build. Serral's developed his killer instincts. For sure. For sure. Yeah. All right. Next game. Bum, ba, ba. Welcome back. So game 3, Golden Aura. What did Maru try here? This was the game where I think Pig just was like super spot on at every moment. But this was the scouting game. Hatch gas pool, 1-rax on the front. So this is something that Oliveira did. He was unsuccessful in killing the Overlord as well. Serral was really on point about the moving of the Overlord. But this also is because Serral was particularly looking for 2-rax, so his Overlord wasn't over there as fast as it could have been. And then the most obvious spot on Golden Aura is right here, which is very accessible for the barracks to lift and kill the Marines. And the Overlord is going to stop at this pillar that has the high ground so that the Marines don't even know where they can track the Overlord. For all they know, the Overlord's actually coming in here. It's like the first Overlord, weirdly, not the second one, you know, like... Was that the first one? But anyways, like, there's some other path, but he has no idea. So he's looking at everything. And he does leave his... Like, his Marines are still scouting. Oliveira checked right, Oliveira checked left, Oliveira went back. Maru scouts all the way to the right, all the way to the right, all the way to the right. Comes back almost in time to catch this Overlord. And just barely misses out on the timing. Ah! But not only does he barely catch a glimpse, let's say he actually did see it for half that second, this Ling ends up being so good. It's one Ling not nibbling on buildings that would never die to it. But Maru wants to get rid of the Ling because it is scouting what those production facilities are building and whether or not they're swapping off or adding a tech lab or whatever they're doing. So he's like, let's move that away, make sure I can put my buildings down. Yeah, exactly. Let's go back to hunting Overlords. And it's just the perfect timing for this Overlord to not just avoid the Marines, but avoid it in a manner in which it is going to its correct location. It's not just going back home to not die. It gets into its correct location. It's absolutely insane that this just works out so well for Serral that it's, one part skill, one part fortune. God smiles on him. Also, I really am not a big fan of the 2 Cyclone opener. I'm still not a big fan. I just didn't mention it on the broadcast. Okay, this time he goes into a quick second barracks. So, again, this is trying to scout everything, right? So Maru's trying to deny any form of scouting in the main base, that's for certain. You can only do so much to deny scouting at the front, to be fair. When the speedlings are done, they're going to dip in and dip out. But he definitely wants this to not do this. He's definitely does not want an Overlord in his main base because he's going to see that it's not 3rd CC. And the second barracks is actually a little weird on whether or not that means the 3rd CC or not. That's why it can be placed in the front, scoutable. Because that could be without seeing the starport, this could have been a 3cc. This could have been what Oliveira did, which was 3cc into second barracks, then starport. But he sees that the starport's actually done. So that kind of sucks. So now he it's 2 bases. So do you commit to 2 bases? It's already considered a not ideal build order. No one does 2cc 2-1-1 anymore. And one of the ways that you can make it work is that part's a little undiscovered, so it hits faster than the Zerg player expects. They kind of are reeling from the hit. Then it goes into a 2-base all in, and then they're still reeling from the unexpected opener. That it works. Maru's done this before, but now you know that it's 2-base 2-1-1 basically. Yes, there is some Cyclones and Hellions made, but the expectation's there now. He knows exactly what's coming out. It's got to be a Liberator from that. I think he literally saw it pass by the Overlord. The Hellion Cyclones are looking for Overlords, which I have not made weak to this. There was another... Was it Dark? I think it was actually Dark who had a wonderful spread of available Overlords for the Cyclones to kill. I think that was it. Yesterday I went over Dark versus Maru, and Dark's Overlords, there is one here, one here. Paint them on. On the mini-map, his Overlords were here, 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 here. They're wonderful as far as a spread to see what's coming, but then they also could get killed by Cyclones. And Serral just apparently doesn't need that. He's like, I think I know what you're doing. Okay, the Cyclones are here. I don't need my Overlords out and about. One Overlord still on the pervert pillar. And the Liberator's like, so it finally gets a kill. But even the Scouting Overlord lives, can come back in later. So the jig is up on the 2-base, and will continue to be given up. The other problem is that maybe you could turn this into a fake scout. A fake, he knows that I know, but doesn't know that I know that he knows that I know. But it doesn't work if the Overlord's still alive. And the Overlord would actually be able to tell that it's not a 2-base committal, even by these engineering bays. Pretty freaking rare to see 2-base 2 engineering bay. Although that would be an excellent continuing fake maneuver.
Our forces are under attack.
Not that he actually scouts that. Doesn't need to, apparently. And this is something that Pig also pointed out, is that at no point does Serral let himself over-defend anything that could possibly be happening. He defends just enough against the possibilities and gets more scouting, so he never is caught actually over-defending. And by over-defending, we mean if he thought this was actually a 2-base committed all-in, maybe he stays at 62 drones until... I don't know. Defends this, and then he probably drones after, right? So maybe because he's expecting a 2-base attack, he still doesn't drone even after taking care of this drop. Yeah, exactly. Like maybe if he thought it was 2-base all in, he's still stuck only on 61 drones as he sees like the 3rd CC land and SCV's transfer, and then you're like, ah, and then you got to catch up. And he does stay on a lower drone count, you know, when I don't think he had to. So, you know, there's something there, but he does get another scout, and he does go back into droning. And then the Liberator kills the Overseer. But by then, I mean, you still need to scout that it's an 8-rax, but, you know, it's the one thing you have to scout, and it's now, like, I don't know, it's not obvious that he's going to do it. It's not, but feels pretty likely he's going to do it. He's down 0-2. That's the only thing that was working against Serral when Oliveira was playing. All other options have been exhausted. Changeling is in the main. Weirdly enough, his scouting actually wasn't complete. He only saw one engineering bay, and he didn't see the 3rd CC. So that is kind of funny, but he determines off other things, I assume. It's not an 8-rax. Or it's not a 2-base all-in, obviously. I think just literally the army not coming with the double medevac drop was kind of a sign. Still pretty fast upgrades for a meandering build order. Trying to get himself back on track and trying to execute this 8-rax. But let's say now that 1-1 is done, we'll do the comparison. It is, again, a meandering build where Maru had to change his plans twice at least. But we now have our 8-rax that we can compare to Oliveira's. We'll go off of this one, I guess. Sure. Different build orders. But at 754... Boop, the Terran army is halfway across the map. That's about the same, actually. The drone count for Serral is about the same. The supply for Serral is about the same. The army supply is about the same. The upgrades are much faster for Serral in this game. He went Pureling, Baneling, quick upgrades. So that's a difference. But other than that, very similar. Oliveira versus Maru. Oliveira, slightly more workers. 1-1 is done for both parties. And his army is not as big. He is 30 army supply less than his opponent, than his race mate Maru, which puts him on an even, actually better supply than his opponent. That's also 3 tanks right there on the front line, halfway across the map. Slightly faster, same number of tanks, though. He just has his Hellbats, which Maru could add. It's just 6 versus 4. 2 Cyclones. 3 Medevacs. Very similar, but still more Marines. It's got to be what it is, right? It's just more Marines from Oliveira. He's producing 12 at a time. Maru's last reactor was slightly late. And then he just gets bodied, but I didn't even really get to start the comparison before Maru was already dead. But yeah, it seems like it is purely in the Marine number. Because all the other numbers, there's 2 more Hellbats versus the 2 Cyclones. That's like the same number, slightly more expensive on the Cyclones, right? And then same number of tanks, same number of medevacs, same-ish upgrade timing. It's just the amount of Marines that that Oliveira has is just so much more. And he is already pushing into... He's actually pushing into Serral as this mark passes by here. Whereas Maru is waiting for his tanks. And just the most unfortunate timing. Jesus Christ. Yeah, it's done. It's done before we even see what could have possibly happened with this. You could definitely chalk up the differences, though, to, you know, Maru having to, again, change his ideas. So I wouldn't say this is a direct comparison as to who can do the perfect 8-rax in a perfect scenario. Who can do it better? That I don't know. But one thing is for certain is that between these 2 series, Maru had plans that got interrupted or just weren't as good. And then Oliveira had plans that were never interrupted and they were always good. Even if they didn't win the game, it was a very solid idea that created a lot of, like, potential. And then Maru, just everything he tries to do in this series is a disaster. And this game's over with this. This is... It's beautiful. It's gorgeous. You know, Serral's not being the super defensive 90 worker player that he could be with the hive done and ultras on the way, whatever else he can do, right? He's done actually his similar build order, the pure Ling Baneling with melee upgrades. Later upgrades, though. But he's done the same composition as this game. It's like he's in a very similar boat to his previous series, but there's a clear difference between the Terrans. ETS Harry, thank you much for the Prime sub. And the timing's just brutal there, you know? Like, she's like, I got army, let's use it. Dog, when you're in the middle of the map, it's shame on you. Yeah. I mean, it couldn't have been, like, a more perfect timing. Unlucky. Also just worse. It was also just worse. And what was even the final game? Who remembers? Who cares? Oh, this is the one on Rochal in. This was very confusing. So hatch pool, gasless opener again. Maru with 1x expand. 3rd CC. After barracks. It's actually the greediest that Maru's been in the series, right? After barracks and after factory. And then into more barracks. Pretty sure this is the greediest that Maru can be. And if he adds that 4th command center timing, then it would 100% be. Doesn't quite kill the Overlord, so the Overlord actually can suicide for a scalp. Doesn't know that, though. So it might not suicide that direction. Yep. So also, kind of the longest time, it feels like, of Serral not knowing that it's a 3cc build. Last game, it just wasn't for a while. And then it was. And so Overlord's gonna look around all the secret spots where it's completely safe before it tries to suicide. Which, funnily enough, misses the 3rd CC timing. A little Marine push out. I don't know if the Serral actually see this. He lost an Overlord to it, so yes. Yeah, he just loses an Overlord. Kind of a cute maneuver there. And Maru really trying to streamline his build to be the most macro with intention to play into that mid game. You know, there's not a pit stop at Hellions and Banshees. And he tries to use the Marines. Good cancel. This felt like a promising start for Maru. Pig and I were excited to see the 6.5 3rd CC, 4th CC. That was this game, wasn't it? Yeah, it was. And Obviously, this wasn't a Hellion Banshee opener, which does seem to be the toggle for Serral just going for an attack. Not that it means your attack is like that much better, but just gonna choose final game, go for an attack with Nidus Worm. This it very well could be Maru just thinking finally I get to a game where I feel like I'm in charge. And then he completely forgets that the Zerg player also has a style where they are in charge. I mean, it sounds silly, but after being kind of conditioned that any roaches that you see are not going to be aggressive, and just being up against the Serral that apparently has something against you, there's something wrong with your brain when it comes to this guy. Very, very possible they just kind of forgot that this was an option. Like, even though he scans and sees even more roaches than usual, and he knows that he hasn't like tracked the drones. He canceled this fourth a couple times, but this is the time in which he knows because the fourth has no drones on it. You would think. And Pig called this out as well. He's like, okay, now he knows. He's gonna go home and defend. And he does, but then he doesn't. So that's why I'm still wondering. Because it looks like everything is exactly what you would need to do to emergency hold against a 1-1 roach push, which, by the way, is very well done. 7.5 minutes, almost maxed out pushing in, with some Ravagers already made. Slightly before 1-1's done. So, you know, it's a decision for him to do that, but it's apparently the right one. Initially, Pig calls this as a very good hold. He ran back home, sieged his tank, pulled the SCVs. Preparations to abandon the third have to be made. Nidus Worm was figured out. Gucci. Awesome. That Nidus Worm is a real confirmation that this is actually dedicated, if this wasn't enough. And yet, what occurs next is actually really bad. But Pig can't just call Maru stupid on broadcast. So we just sat there confused as Maru thought that this army could take on this army. You know, maybe he thought Nidus Worm would have some roaches in it, but like you can see, like he can see this army. He can see it. So he is actively sizing up his army versus the Roach Ravager, and he thinks that he can take it, which isn't correct. Usually, if they aren't actively looking at their army, you could, you know, then you realize they make a mistake and they pull back after sacrificing 10 SCVs accidentally, or you see them completely abandon ship on the third. They lift it and they leave. And with the fourth finishing, that's one less thing to worry about if you have to evacuate the third. Sometimes you evacuate the third and the fourth is still building. It's a cancel, and that does make things awkward. Not this game. You could have evacuated and had both bases lift. Factory probably could have even lifted. Instead, he takes the battle, and he was wrong. He was 100% wrong. And all I did while Pig was casting this, because I wasn't speaking, I think, when this was going on, I literally was just doing this to the camera. I was like, what? Why? I hesitate to say that we're better than Maru, but are we? No, I'm just kidding. No, something went wrong that he thought that he would be able to take this on. And something that goes wrong very infrequently for Maru. Like, he's usually a great judge of battles and split-second decisions. So this is all good. This is all good. This is, and then he's supposed to run away. Then run away. Then run away. Then run away. You know, if he, maybe he's looking at the army for half a second. Maybe he thinks those SCVs are Marines. He's definitely not. He's not glimpsing his army. He's looking right at it.
Additional supply depots required. Additional.
And then he takes the battle. Yeah, it's just like there's that. It's a very active decision. it's very rare you see Maru make such a grand miscalculation. When the other option is not all that mind-boggling either. It's not like Maru hasn't had to retreat off his third CC against a 1-1 roach push before. But that was the deciding moment. And there's a lot more that can be done if he runs away. I mean, I feel very confident in this, that Maru at this point was just broken, misjudging. Brain was like scrambled eggs. Probably thought it was inevitable that Serral would win. We've seen enough of these 1-1 roach pushes to know what it looks like when this like initial attack kind of looks like it's working, but the bio holds on and the SCVs are saved and the third CC lifts. Like, it's not bad. It's not that bad. You got upgrades coming on the line for the Terran. You get a 4th CC finishing. Your buildings lift and they land. It's magical. And then he takes the fight instead. I don't know. That was a head scratcher, but I think Maru was totally defeated as the game maybe even started. He just got totally destroyed. But you can absolutely see Oliveira's macro plan is much better. I think that is a fact at this point in time. As far as their ability to execute builds, I think that it should be on the same level. If not, Maru is better most of the time executing builds. It's just not versus Serral. He had it in the first game, and then his Reapers got blocked, and he just checked out after that. That probably sounds right.